Hello, we're still here at the Gaspereau Mountain Herbal Farm, and we have visiting herbalist Maureen Robertson all the way from Scotland and Portugal, and she was here to share Goethean Plant Study, or observational plant study. You want to tell us just a little bit about what that means?
Whoa, well, it's not just an observational plant study, it's about how you can take the plant beyond itself by interpreting it through the human being as the natural, as the perfect interpreter. Actually is what Goethe described human beings as, being the perfect interpreter of natural phenomena. And here we have a phenomenal plant because it's producing this milky gum, and there's not many plants that do that, and it's doing it willingly, because usually gums and resins are produced as a response by trees or shrubs in response to damage.
Right.
But here is a willing participant, and so that's a very interesting question to ask this plant. Why are you producing this milky gum, and you're doing it at the beginning of your flower process, and then by the time you get to the full flowering process, the gum's gone, although there is still the indication of it by stickiness in the leaves. So the gum production is a big piece of the whole plant, not just the flowering bud. And gums usually indicate stability and softening and moistening. But the resins that are also part of that picture are very anti-inflammatory and very antiseptic. So this plant is doing two things. It's softening and moistening and nourishing with the gums and stabilizing, and then it's also cutting infection and breaking up inflammation and any kind of stuckness or damp heat that we would see from inflammation developing from a putrefaction almost of stuck mucus. And this plant has a association with clearing stuck mucus out of the lungs, and we got that from tasting the tincture, from spending a long time observing the plant. But right at the beginning of all that is you really connecting with how the plant makes you feel when you first meet it. So it's like that example I give of, you arrive at a party or you're on a blind date, and your eyes meet across the room and you're interested in that other person. And it's the same when you meet a plant. It's like, it's you that we're going to be spending time with, because normally I don't tell people in advance. It's one, you don't know what plant is going to be calling you because it's in its optimum state and it's really like ready to tell all.
Yes.
And two, it's good to not have people come with preconception or thinking, oh, I've read about this plant, I already know about this plant, because you're actually hearing it from the plant itself when you're spending time, rather than something that somebody else has commented on and you've read that. So it's all about your personal experience with the plant, showing an interest, being willing to be the advocate for the plant. And so the first step of that is, how does it feel? What's your first impression when you first meet the plant? And some people don't like the plant, and if there's a strong reaction, even if it's a negative reaction, that's still important information for you to think about. What is it about this plant that's triggering me, or maybe I need something that I'm in denial about. So there's always a way in, regardless of what the nature of that first impression is. So that's an important piece, and Goethe called that first step intuitive precognition, because it's something that's very subjective and very personal. Yet the intuition is rarely wrong. When you're not rationalizing, that's when you're really, you've probably nailed it. But then we let our judgments come in and say, oh no, that's not right. Or so it's really good to go with that intuition, and then do the work with the observation and really get the facts in a solid way, so that you have a strong foundation to take you over that threshold where you're trying to really bring the qualities of the plant into some material preparation that is capturing that essence that you've been encountering, and that actually backs up and mirrors that some aspect of that first impression, but now it is cognitive. Now it's not a precognitive experience. You've got you're conscious of how you got to that information, and so that brings a real sense of completeness, because in modern science, of course, they just stick to the observational fact-finding part, which is just one of the 7 steps that we move with. So it's a much more satisfying, complete and whole experience.
Very fresh, that getting those first impressions, learning directly from the plant, and then using the intuition and valuing intuition, which is often lost in a lot of modern plant study. And as you say, the end result, we did some drawing of the plant yesterday, was quite fun and a nice process.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about kind of integrating how the plant is through you as the human vessel, to then recreate that in some kind of responsible way through either these drawing exercises and ultimately the preparation itself. And the whole point is that you are changed in the process, because you've taken in within you another being's energy, and you're trying to, with as much integrity as possible, put that out into to a wider audience through a material preparation that you have a very conscious understanding of how you got there and what its therapeutic indications are, and what kind of constitutional or type of person would best benefit from it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great way to learn about herbs. I've never met this plant before, so I came at it fresh and new, and I will never forget this plant. It's permanently lodged. I'll remember it from the tactile, experiential, and that whole process we went through. I'm guaranteed never to forget this plant. So I think it's a valuable method for learning plants. So thank you for sharing this method with us.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.